Live to regret this, old man.
Hello there, folks. You know what time it is. We're back again with yet another marvelous video just for you, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a deep dive into our favorite fantasy world. The Lord of the Rings has a new movie set to debut from New Line Cinema in Peter Jackson's version of this legendary universe, so now is as good a time as any to explore what we're in for with this new offering. With the franchise being close to 75 years old now, its influence can be felt in almost every fantasy work that has come after it. J.R.R. Tolkien has created a living, breathing world that has spawned generations of fans and will most likely continue to do so even when most of us are long gone. What Peter Jackson managed to do with his films is nothing short of phenomenal. It's no secret that the author's estate wasn't exactly on board with Jackson's interpretation of the books. However, the movies have not only managed to win numerous prestigious awards, but for many fans, when one thinks of or even reads the books now, our thoughts and imagination of Middle-earth are influenced by those movies. The three films are regarded by many as the best trilogy ever created, regardless of genre. We'll have to wait and see if the War of the Rohirrim, that's coming out this December, will manage to live up to these lofty standards. It should be noted that even though Peter Jackson isn't the director this time, he is a producer for the project, and we hope he can guide this film to deliver according to fans' expectations. Fans will have a sense of continuity, at least regarding visuals, even though it's an animated adaptation that works hugely in this movie's favor. Even though Peter Jackson is no longer at the helm, New Line Cinema has brought in a legendary anime director to try to fill his shoes for this film. Kenji Kamiyama, the man behind works such as Ghost in the Shell, Standalone Complex, Higashi no Eden, and Jinro the Wolf Brigade, has been announced as the director for this film. Boasting an impressive resume, with the most hardcore anime fans being familiar with one, if not all, of the above films, it's safe to say that the movie is in good hands. The movie is set to focus on the Rohirrim, who are the mighty horse lords of Rohan. Their ferocity in battle knows no equal, neither does their battle prowess on horseback. Their ancestor, Yorl the Young, was granted the land of Kalanardhon by Sirion, the steward of Gondor, for providing aid at the time of Gondor's direst moment. He would call the land Rohan, and his line would rule the kingdom for generations as the most formidable allies of the kingdoms of Arnor and Gondor. The tales of the valor of these hardy folk extend all the way into the end of the Third Age, where their fearsome death charge on the Battle of Pelennor Fields, led by their king Theoden against the mighty hosts of the Dark Lord Sauron, became the stuff of legend. We are, however, not here to talk about Yorl or Theoden, as these are tales for another day. In today's video, we're here to talk about a tumultuous time in Rohan's history where the kingdom came to the brink of destruction. We'll be covering the events that took place during the reign of arguably one of the most famous kings in all of Lord of the Rings, Helm Hammerhand. However, he isn't the protagonist of this retelling. This is a tale of wrath, valor, and betrayal, where legends were forged in the crucible of war. Join us as we take you on a journey through Middle-earth as we discuss everything there is to know about the upcoming film, Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means an awful lot. Thank you. Let's begin. A brief history lesson. Helm would ascend to the throne at the age of 58, with his youth having already passed him by, much like his father Gram had during his time after the death of his grandsire. The fact that the Rohirrim weren't of Númenórean bloodline meant that Helm was actually no spring chicken, as his people didn't have the same lifespan as the kings and lords of Gondor and Arnor, and later the Dúnedain, had in their blood. Yet, despite his advanced age, the king was a physical specimen and had a strength that belied his own age. Now, when Helm came to power in the year 2041 of the Third Age as the 9th king of Rohan, his kingdom was already in a deep-seated conflict with the Dunlendings. Tensions between the two peoples had been ongoing since the time of his grandfather, and Helm inherited anything but a safe and stable kingdom. However, the first spark of the conflagration that would almost consume the kingdom wouldn't come from the Dunlendings or the Orcs, but from within Rohan itself. The land on either side of the river Adorn in the west march of Rohan was under the lordship of a man called Freka. He was a bannerman of the king of Rohan, but had consistently ignored the king's summons to the council meetings. Since his land lay in fertile soil and was defended by the river, Adorn Freka was a powerful lord. However, due to his dark hair, he was rumored to have the blood of the Dunlendings coursing through his veins. His impudence towards the throne further compounded this rumor. However, Freka himself claimed to be a descendant of King Freywine, the 5th king of Rohan. To the surprise of many, he would finally answer the council meeting summons and arrive at the capital Edoras in the year 2754 of the Third Age with a large contingent of men in a seeming show of force. During the course of the meeting, his intentions are laid bare when he tries to coerce the king to marry his daughter, who's unnamed in the books, but in the movie, Hera, to his son Wolf. Needless to say, the old king would not take kindly to such intimidation tactics, and the two would come to blows. In the books, we are told after Freka mocks the king for his old age, subtly hinting that he's not fit to rule, Helm, without a word, delivers a devastating punch to the man's head, killing him instantly. The movie, of course, will have a much more dramatized version of events, as seen in the trailer where Freka is seen delivering blow after blow on Helm before he is lore accurately killed with a single punch. This, along with the fact that Helm rode into battle carrying a warhammer, would earn him the name Helm Hammerhand, by which he would be famously known for the rest of history. The fall of Rohan. After Freka had been killed, Helm would banish his kin and family from Rohan and denounce them as traitors to the throne. Freka's son Wolf would swear an oath about avenging his father and taking the throne of Rohan for himself and depart. Now, around the time when this story takes place, Isengard, the famous home of the Tower of Orthanc, stands, and it wasn't yet occupied by the wizard Saruman. Even though Orthanc itself was locked, the surrounding land of Isengard was occupied by wild men and the folks of Dunland. Wolf would supplement his forces with these evil men from Isengard and other Dunlendings from the surrounding area, inciting their hearts with hatred and promising them revenge. Together, they would march into Rohan 4 years after his father's death in the year 2758 of the Third Age. Helm and his younger son Hamma would muster their own forces, and the two armies would clash in a battle at the ford of Isen. Helm would be soundly defeated by Wolf and would be forced to retreat to the Southburg at Helm's Deep. This invasion would be accompanied by an unnaturally long winter which seemed to have no end, and Helm would lie besieged in this fortress with his son Hamma, waiting for reinforcements that would never come. Meanwhile, Wolf, victorious after avenging his father's death, would march on towards the capital of Rohan, Edoras, where he would lay another siege. Edoras was left in the care of the king's eldest son, Haleth, who was a great warrior and kind man well loved by his people. He would fight valiantly against the invaders, but unfortunately, he perished before the gates of the Golden Hall of Medisled. Wolf would capture Edoras and thus would take the throne for himself, calling himself king.
My pride, my joy.
The situation at Helm's Deep. Meanwhile, at the Southburg, no news of the war or the death of Haleth had reached Helm or his younger son Hamma. As supplies dwindled and the harsh winter made the heat of their men grow cold with despair and hunger, Hamma would sortie out with a group of warriors to look for supplies. Despite the warnings of his father, the young prince would venture and he would be lost in the snow, and he would never be found again. Thus, Helm would lose both his sons, and his mood would grow ever increasingly worse. As the situation became even more dire regarding supplies and the winter showed no sign of ending, Helm, fueled with rage, grief, and hunger, began venturing into the enemy camps. It is said that he appeared like a snowy apparition, killing those who stood in his way with his bare hands, and come daylight, it would be like he was never there except for the piles of bodies and missing supplies. His nightly onslaughts would be marked by the blowing of his dreaded horn, which would fill the hearts of his enemies with dread. This is the reason that the Southburg would later come to be known as the Hornburg. For those of you who have watched the film or read the books, this is the location for the major battle that's fought in the second installment of the trilogy, The Two Towers. One day, the horn of Helm Hammerhand would ring in the deep once more, but the king wouldn't return to the fort. Come dawn, his body would be found frozen. He had died the night before, still standing with his eyes wide open, looking like he was ready to fight. So fierce was his aura that even though he was truly dead, none of his enemies dared approach the body. Thus, it was saved from any desecration. It is said, especially by the enemies of Rohan, that Helm's spirit still wanders the area, defending the Hornburg even long after his death. By the time of his death in the year 2079, he would be 68 years of age. Even though his actions on that fateful day would lead him to lose his kingdom and heirs, Helm is still remembered fondly for his battle prowess and not for compromising his honor as the king of Rohan. With him would end the first line of kings of Rohan.
Could rule the world.
The end of the war and its aftermath. Wolf's reign would continue throughout the terrible winter, and it wasn't until the seasons finally changed that he would be challenged once more. Having finally fulfilled his oath and done what his father couldn't by sitting on the throne of Rohan, Wolf truly thought himself king. We're not told what kind of a ruler he was, as his reign would be extremely short-lived. Wolf had made one critical error, even though Helm and his sons were dead and the fate of his daughter was unknown. Not all who shared the royal bloodline of J.R.R were dead yet. Freyolf Hildeson, who was Helm's sister's son, had escaped with a number of Rohirrim into the area of Dunharrow, where they planned to retake Rohan from the usurper after Winter's End. They would successfully do this under the leadership of Freyolf, who would slay Wolf personally, ending the usurper's short reign. The rest of the enemies would be driven out of Rohan with the aid of Gondor, who would finally come to their aid. Freyolf would be crowned as the 10th king of Gondor, and the second line of kings would begin. During his coronation, Saruman the Wise would make his appearance at the event and bestow the king with gifts and praise. He would offer the king his counsel and friendship, however, none there would know that the wizard's heart had already begun lusting for the One Ring, and it was for this purpose he had come to gain access to the knowledge hidden within the Tower of Orthanc. Isengard, which now lay empty, was given to the wizard along with the tower keys by Baron Stewart of Gondor. This act was not disputed by Freyolf, who, oblivious to the threat the wizard would present to his descendants later in the Third Age, believed that having Saruman on his side would prove to be an additional security measure from Dunlending threats. Helm would finally be laid to rest next to his ancestors, and the Symbolmine flower that grew on the graves of his forebears would grow thickest on his mound all year round, giving it the appearance of being covered in a thick blanket of snow. Freyolf would reign until the age of 72 and would finally die in the year 2798, leaving his son Britta as the king. However, in the film, it seems that Freyolf's role in the story is played by Helm's otherwise unknown daughter, Hera. From what we've seen so far regarding the trailer, the movie seems to be focused on her choices and her conflict with her childhood friend Wolf after her late father's death. This is, of course, all creative liberties taken by the people behind the film, and no such evidence of their relationship or even the name Hera exists in the original lore. Our hope is that with Peter Jackson on the production team, this retelling will still appeal to the fans.
Rohan.
Hera, daughter of Helm, I, Wolf, seek your hand in marriage.
Marvelous verdict! With how Amazon's Rings of Power has been twisting the lore, many hardcore fans are apprehensive about having an unknown character from the book as the primary antagonist of this film. As the movies are sacred to so many fans, people can be quite sensitive about these things, which is only a testament to their passion. However, we believe you gotta give it a fair shot and try it before you knock it. The majority of the lore seems to have been kept unaltered, and with the added bonus of it having the same visual aesthetics as the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit films, we actually can't wait to see it. Many are accusing New Line Cinema of just pumping out this movie in order to meet their contractual obligation, as they risk losing their rights to the franchise. No matter what the real reason is, we're just glad that we get to see another Lord of the Rings adaptation. It's quite refreshing to see that the aesthetics of the film seem to translate rather well into anime. That said, time really does fly when we're talking about Middle-earth, and before you know it, we've arrived at the end of this video. Thanks for sticking with us right to the end. We have many more videos covering all sorts of things related to Lord of the Rings on our channel, so I'll be sure to check those out once you're done here. Let us know your expectations about the movie in the comments section down below, whether you're looking forward to it or not. We want to hear from you. For now though, we have to bid you farewell, but we hope to see you in our next video. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Otherwise, this is Wizard Wheezy signing off for Marvelous Videos. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and stay marvelous.